All right, so let's get into Kanban. So Kanban, it's a strategy or a method, and it's used to optimize flow of value. There's that term again, that word again, through a process that uses visual and pull-based systems. So the term visual is super important here, and there may be various ways to define value. So it could, you could consider the needs of your customer, the end user, the organization, the environment, et cetera. But Kanban comprises of three practices that I talk about. Not necessarily limited to these three, but these are three that I find particularly important. One is defining and visualizing a workflow. All right, so we need to understand what our workflow is, and we need to so not only do we need to define that, but we need to visualize that, because then we want to actively manage our work items in that workflow. So we have our workflow identified, we know what our states are, and then now we want to actively manage those work items through those states, but always looking to improve the workflow. So visualize it, manage your items in it, and improve it. Okay. And quick fun fact, Kanban is Japanese for signal card. And really what we mean by that is a team will pull in or select work when there's a clear signal of capacity to do so. So right in the definition. Some theory behind it. So Kanban draws on established flow theory. Not limited to these bullets, but again, I find them quite important. One of them is around systems thinking. One of them is around those lean principles we just talked about. The third one, really important, managing work in progress. And then the last one, quality control. So we're thinking holistically, we're eliminating waste, we're identifying and eliminating waste, we're managing how much work we're doing at any given time, and we're doing it with high levels of quality. So continually improving a Kanban system over time based on these theories is one way for organizations that they can attempt to optimize the delivery of value. So your Kanban board, we'll show you this in Jira, of course, but basically column per status in your workflow. Work items move from left to right as capacity is available. You can control your work in progress, ideally in your Kanban board, and visualize that. You can avoid work items from piling up because, again, you're seeing everything. It's all in real time. And you need the ability for anyone at any level of the organization to be able to see what's going on, particularly if leadership can come in and see the amount of work in progress. Maybe that unplanned work can wait in the backlog. Maybe it doesn't have to jump into work in progress immediately because they see the amount of work going on. Ensuring work items don't age unnecessarily. So we want to make sure that in our Kanban boards that things don't, grow old, if you will. So some important metrics. We'll talk about these during the demo as well. But cycle time, the time it takes to complete a work item went from when the development starts, and lead time, the time it takes to complete a work item from when it was requested. Some other important metrics live around the 5 time thieves that we talked about. One of them being unplanned work. Being able to identify your unplanned work and visualize it and see it and know how much of it there was is important. How many unknown dependencies you have is important. How much time are you waiting on stuff? Super important when you don't finish features based on a planned time release. And because you can identify that a lot of your work was unplanned or you're waiting on things. Throughput, the number of items that we can complete through our workflow over a period of time. And our work item age, again, what's the average age of our work items on our board, work in progress. Cost of delay. So it's a way of prioritizing what we work on, and basically what we're doing with cost of delay. And I'm going to show you a pretty neat trick that we did in Jira to show this, is you're measuring the impact of time on valuable outcomes. So what I mean by that is you need to identify how much potential revenue you could lose if a feature is delayed. And then you identify how much time you think it's going to be delayed, and then you get your cost of delay. So for example, if every week this feature A might lose $5,000 and I might delay it for 8 weeks, then your cost of delay is, do the math, $40,000. So and then based on that number alone, you could go in there and say, well, we don't want to lose this $40,000 or this $50,000. So let's go ahead and prioritize based on what we can get the most revenue out of if we deploy quicker. Another way to prioritize features nicely is around classes of service. So these are 4 commonly used classes of service. We'll just walk through them quickly. Expedite, it's the highest class of service, and it's really reserved for work items and projects that have that critical priority and a very high cost of delay. So notice that that takes into account here. Fixed delivery date, the second most important, and it's basically dedicated to assignments with a fixed date and a high cost of failing to deliver on time. Standard, the majority of your tasks will be standard class of service, and basically it's reserved for items with a moderate cost of delay, but they tolerate longer lead times and don't require much prioritizing. And then intangible. So these are the ones that can also be considered as chores. You know you have to complete them, but there's no rush or for processing them right away. These things come with little to no cost of delay, and they allow for very long lead times.